set up a framework for peace talks for Ukraine.
U.S. officials will meet with Ukrainian counterparts next week in Saudi Arabia, weeks after an Oval Office blow-up between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and President Trump.
I'm finding it more difficult, frankly, to deal with Ukraine. And they don't have the cards. They don't have the cards.
The president says it may be easier to get Russia to agree on a final settlement.
And Ukraine has to get on the ball and get a job done.
Still, President Trump warned on social media repeated bombings of Ukraine by Russia could lead to more sanctions and tariffs on Moscow.
Fox's Jared Halpert at the White House. The president warns the situation could devolve into World War III. In a message to Iran's supreme leader, the president offering to negotiate a deal that would prevent them from developing nuclear weapons, telling Fox's Maria Bartiromo in an interview for Fox News Sunday.
I hope that Iran, and I've written him a letter, saying, I hope you're going to negotiate, because if we have to go in militarily, it's going to be a terrible thing for them.
The Department of Homeland Security says they've rooted out the leakers who gave a heads up to activists about immigration raids in several cities, as Fox's Bill Malutian reports.
An ICE raid in Aurora, Colorado last month. I was on that operation. It failed. It leaked. There were media reports that the raid was coming days in advance. The same thing happened for an operation here in Los Angeles. Another operation in Virginia just leaked a few days ago. There was also another leak in Chicago. These leaks have been widespread. It has happened multiple times. They have seemed to be getting worse and worse.
DHS Secretary Kristi Noem says they will prosecute the leakers. DHS has also canceled a collective bargaining agreement with 47,000 airport security workers. America is listening to Fox News.
During tax season, your personal info travels to a lot of places you can't control. Between payroll, your home office, your tax preparer, and the IRS, if your W-2 gets exposed, that's just the ticket for identity thieves. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second. If your identity's stolen, they'll fix it guaranteed, or your money back. Don't let identity thieves take you for a ride. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code CLAY. Visit LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Millions of Americans take medicine like Ozempic and Zepbound. Many of them are overpaying by thousands of dollars a year. These GLP-1 medications for diabetes, weight loss, and more may not always be covered by your insurance, but GoodRx can help. GoodRx helps you save every month on prescriptions at over 70,000 pharmacies nationwide. Best of all, it's free to use. Check GoodRx to save on GLP-1s. Just go to GoodRx.com/GLP. That's GoodRx.com/GLP. GoodRx is not insurance, but can be used instead of insurance, including Medicare and other federal and state-funded programs.
Just when you got used to calling the country's largest Army base Fort Liberty, you can't anymore.
The Army base, located near Fayetteville, North Carolina, once named for Confederate General Braxton Bragg, then renamed Fort Liberty, is back to being Fort Bragg again, this time in honor of a different person with the same name. Army Lieutenant General Greg Anderson made it official with praise for the paratrooper who was awarded a Silver Star and a Purple Heart during World War II.
Fort Bragg is a place where ordinary people transform into heroes. Ordinary people like Private First Class Roland L. Bragg.
The renaming fulfills a campaign promise by President Trump and is part of his larger effort to rid the military of diversity initiatives and transgender service members, among other things. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
Barring last-minute court intervention, convicted killer Brad Sigmund has but 2 hours to live. He's scheduled to be executed this evening by a firing squad in South Carolina for beating his ex-girlfriend's parents to death with a bat in 2001. It was his choice to be shot to death rather than lethally executed. With spring break approaching, the State Department warning Americans about where they might not want to go.
The Turks and Caicos now a level 2 travel advisory due to crime as the islands prepare for spring break. It's where Americans and other visitors have been jailed and hit with huge fines for allegedly being caught with single bullets in their luggage. The so-called bulletin bag scam has also targeted foreigners visiting other countries, including the Philippines and Jamaica. The U.S. State Department's latest travel warning advises people visiting the British overseas territory to not walk alone at night and not physically resist robbery attempts, and comes after an Illinois sheriff's deputy, 50-year-old Shimon Duncan, was killed in January in a shooting. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
At the close on Wall Street, the Dow up 222 points, NASDAQ ahead 127. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Hello.
Hello again, everyone. Let's check weather for Eastern Illinois, Champaign, and vicinity. Typical late winter weak weather system on the move for the day-to-day. Return of sunshine and an uptick in temperature readings gets going over the course of the weekend. Big warm-up slated for next week, and there may be a pretty active weather pattern shaping up as well by late next week, too. So we'll keep you posted on increasing rainfall chances here, and we need it in the days to come. Speaking of which, a few flakes of snow, sprinkles of rain this morning, and a touch of light rain this afternoon. 42 the forecast high with a southeast wind. Bit of rain lingers in spots this evening. Mostly cloudy, bit colder in the overnight. We'll bottom out at 27. Sunshine on the roof of the weekend. 45 tomorrow, down to 28 tomorrow night. Don't forget the time change back up into around the 54-degree range on Sunday. 64 the forecast high on Monday with sunshine. We'll crowd 70 on Tuesday and Wednesday. A couple of showers and thunderstorms Wednesday. Cooler weather Thursday, but not by much at 60. And showers and thunderstorms in here for late next week on Friday. High temperatures back to the 70s. For Stevie J Broadcasting, I'm meteorologist Greg Solgay.
Hey, what's up? Happy Friday. Happy game day here in Champaign. It is The Drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Derek Piper, Kyle Toss getting you set for the home finale, the regular season finale in Champaign. Illinois against number 18 Purdue. The Illini trying to get back on the right side of the ledger in this series. They've lost 5 straight to the Boilermakers, including a heartbreaker last year. Purdue was the third-ranked team in the country. Close game down the stretch. Braden Smith hits a dagger 3, does the Steph Curry night-night, and they sail off to win their back-to-back Big Ten title. They're not winning it this year. Michigan State, with a win last night, make sure that they're going to be the outright champion, right?
Yes.
With Maryland beating Michigan earlier this week. So Illinois, though, high stakes going into this game. You want a chance to solidify your position off the 8-9 line in the NCAA tournament and just finally get a win over Purdue. It's been since the COVID season that you've beaten them. Since then, you, of course, had Zach Edey and his dominance. He's no longer there, but this is still a really good Purdue team, starting with Braden Smith. We'll break it all down as we go along. But, Kyle, how you doing on this beautiful, sunny, 50-degree or so day? And the last game we'll see here in Champaign of the season.
Yeah, I'm pretty fired up for it. This is going to be a great matchup tonight. It's kind of crazy that it's the last game of the regular season and you haven't seen Purdue yet. Now, normally this is kind of a second-time play, but after all the Illinois-Purdue back and forth last year, to not have seen them until March 7th this year is kind of crazy. But I think this is going to be a great matchup. A lot on the line for both teams because I believe Purdue, this is make or break for a double bye in the Big Ten tournament. They win this game, they secure a double bye. They lose it, they will not have one and will be the 5 seed, barring like Penn State beating Wisconsin or something crazy. So I think it's going to be a high-stakes, high-intensity, and my prediction is a very high-scoring offensive affair, which I know from reading your preview. I'll say that I read it this time so I don't just copy your prediction. But I think it's going to be a really fun offensive battle between a heck of a point guard battle in Braden Smith and Kasparas Jakučionis, and both teams having found their rhythm offensively with big explosions coming into this game, I think could make for a really fun one.
Both teams have been on very similar paths really over the last month. I wrote about it today in my preview that if you look at the analytics, which I know that some are not diving into all that and whatnot, they're maybe just looking at the win-loss and what you see on TV, which even then you look at a losing streak for Illinois and, they, of course, blowout fashion when they lost 3 in a row, starting with Michigan State at home, the way that finished and how disappointing that was, into Wisconsin, into the Duke game. And then you're kind of questioning, where does it go? Is this team backs against the wall? Are they going to fight? Are they going to be able to surge back up and have some positivity going into March and as we trend towards the postseason? And they obviously did that with Iowa, and then obviously after that going to Michigan against the number 15 team in the country. And like you said, offensive explosion, 93 points, 60-plus in the second half. Purdue loses 4 straight in the month of February, which their season wasn't over, but it was very much in question. Like, do they have flaws that are unfixable? Are they going to be able to to be a team that gets to a second weekend. What's this going to look like down the stretch for Purdue? And they respond and win back-to-back home games. They beat UCLA in a hard-fought game and then explode on Rutgers with 100 points, and they make 18 threes, 7 each for Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer as well. And in addition to the fact of what's at stake for the Big Ten tournament, you look at Purdue right now. I'm on the Gaming Juice, Brad Evans site, and looking at the big board. Purdue is the last 4 seed right now, so trying to position themselves, like maybe if they go on a run at the Big Ten, they win this game and go on a run in the Big Ten tournament, could they climb up to the 3 line? I think that would be very reasonable as something they could achieve. But at the very least, you're kind of solidifying yourself 4 seed and above. As for Illinois, they right now are the last 7 seed.
I know Bracket Matrix has them as the top 8 seed now.
Oh, okay. So you're kind of teetering between that 7-8. I think that the fear is that you lose the next 2 games. You lose this game, and then you kind of have a coin flip one over there in Indy in that 8-9 battle. We'd have to see what happens between Indiana and Ohio State as for who that opponent would be. But that would be an 11 a.m. Thursday, which we know we love 11 a.m. games with Illinois. And you lose that, you're definitely in the 8-9. Probably maybe even a 9 seed. So win this, and maybe that floor is a 7, but at least it's the path forward to not being in the 8-9. At the very least, giving you a chance to win on Thursday in the Big Ten tournament.
Now, the funny thing about the Big Ten tournament scenario, and when I say this, I'm assuming that UCLA is going to beat USC at home. If they don't, then Illinois could rise up to the 6 seed with a win tonight. I'm assuming that's not going to happen. So if you win, you're going to be the 7 seed playing at 5:30 on Thursday against the winner of a 10-15 game. If you lose, you're going to be the 8 seed playing the 9 at 11 a.m. Winning would actually probably give you the more desperate opponent, because the loser of that Indiana-Ohio State game is probably going to be the 10 seed. Beating the 15 seed won't do them any good. Could be kind of a desperation win and in game for the loser of that game.
That's a good point.
Whereas the winner of that game probably solidifies their tournament berth in that matchup tomorrow between Ohio State and Indiana. So that's the one trade-off of the higher seed. You might be playing the team that is a little bit more desperate and playing for their tournament lives. Obviously, you still – the Big Ten tournament seeding ultimately is probably an afterthought for both these teams, like you said. What you're trying to build towards for Illinois, get off that 8 line of the NCAA tournament. I think if you win tonight, you're in pretty good shape to do it. I'd still say you probably want to win that first Big Ten tournament game to solidify it. I think if you win 2, you're squarely on the 7, maybe pushing the 6 line. I think you even could maybe hang on to that 7 line with a win tonight, regardless of what happens in Indy.
Yep.
And like you said, for Purdue, now the Big Ten tournament will have even more of a say, but a road win at Illinois, who's currently 17th in the net, could get them above that 4-5 line, which is also very important to try and stay as far away from those 1 seeds. So I think that is a big factor in this game as well.
No doubt. And to circle back to what I was saying on the metrics, these teams have profiled very similarly in terms of their offense and defense. Really kind of the trade-off there. Now, Illinois has been better defensively the last couple of games since the Duke annihilation, giving up 110 points. But both over the last month reside in the top 10 in the country in offensive efficiency. Both are outside of the top 125 in defense. So they're very much – it's Purdue 8th in offense, Illinois 9th in offense, and then it's like Illinois 131st, I think, and Purdue like 127th. I could have those mixed up, but essentially they have profiled to be almost the same team on paper. Of course, they have different strengths, they have different abilities as far as, Trey Kaufman-Renn playing in the post while Avicic is on the perimeter. I'm not saying they're the same team, but both, like you were saying earlier, can really rack up points. Both are coming in feeling really good about themselves offensively. Illinois making a bunch of threes in that second half at Michigan and getting a bunch of offensive rebounds. Now, we'll talk about different aspects of what Illinois will want to carry over and what maybe even could be different with the matchup now being not Michigan, but instead Purdue. Let's start here, though, Kyle. What would this win mean for Illinois? Like, beyond the seeding and stuff, what would the vibes say about Illinois if they go from a 3-game losing streak mid to late February, and we're wondering, even having the thought of the doomsday, if they lose to Iowa, is this over? Is this season just completely done and they're not going to make the tournament? If they respond with a 3-game winning streak, of course, we'll have to see what this one looks tonight for all the details and who's riding hot and whatever, but
just win by anything, and I think you'll be feeling really good. I think it's a huge game for just that, what you said, just the vibes, the confidence level, just the feeling around this team entering the postseason changes so drastically with the way this game goes tonight for me. Because if you follow up that 2-game win streak and it feels like you've maybe figured some things out, gotten guys healthy, and then you lose another home game to a team, that is of equal-ish caliber. I know Purdue's had a better overall season than Illinois, but this is a team that, you're going to be a 5-point favorite against going into tonight's game, and you've already had some of these home letdown performances this year. Another kind of marquee-ish home game to lose in a year that's had a handful of those, and just continuing to be inconsistent, which has been the story of this team all season long. We've been talking about it for 2 months ever since that West Coast trip when it felt like everything was clicking into place, will this team be able to build any consistency, any extended stretch? And, we went through it for a month straight of that lighter part of the schedule. Couldn't do it. You just had an off night after you looked like you were making progress, and then you come back and you lose at Rutgers. You come back and you lose in overtime at Nebraska. If you win this game, it feels like you've finally broken through for the first time since that early January stretch, and you're finally clicking, and you'll have so much confidence going to Indianapolis and whatever happens there. Obviously, you wouldn't then want to follow it up with getting bounced early there, but I just think everybody would be so much more bought back in on what this team can do going into March, and even just from the team's perspective, I think they'll be filled with confidence. If you get another great Kylan game, another great Trey White game, if Kasparis outplays Braden Smith or at least matches him or rises to that challenge, I just think it can do so much for this team now with a week off before Indy to really finally feel like, okay, things are starting to click into place at the right time, and this team's finally back healthy and playing their best basketball when it matters. A loss and just feels like, well, this is the story of this team. Who's to say we're going to win 3 in a row in the tournament? We still haven't done it in 2 months.
Right. Yeah, I think that this is the game that makes me buy into some of the narratives out there that this is the high seed that nobody wants to see. This is the dark horse that could go to an Elite Eight, that could really even maybe push for a Final Four. I don't think you can believe that fully unless they string something together here beyond 2 games. Like you said, we haven't seen them reel off 3+ wins in a row, and not to say that they can't do it at the right time. There have been teams that have gone into an NCAA tournament that have been inconsistent, that have had the talent or whatever it might be, just got hot at the right time, that, of course, just kind of blew people away, went on that run. But I think for momentum, and I think that you separate these into 2 different categories. I don't know that the team cares what the fan base probably feels. I do think this is the game, though, that maybe allows people that are still on the fence or still wondering, are they back and all that kind of thing. I think tonight is the game that would get them all the way back in and say, yeah, for sure, they are back. They're playing their best basketball right now, at least best basketball in a while, and we can believe that they are primed or just having a really good chance for a deep run. And then for the team's standpoint, though, I do think confidence is really important. I think momentum is really important. I think this is, and we're going to talk a lot about this, I think, such a prime matchup for Kylan Boswell. Prime night for him to take what's been some good games recently, some momentum for him, and just maybe blast it through the roof and have him be somebody you're just supremely confident in going into the postseason, and a guy that is really taking on a new role and maybe getting back into being that lockdown defender. Now, if he locks down Braden Smith tonight, that would be one heck of an accomplishment. I think Kasparis is another guy. I mean, here recently, I know we had the conversation earlier this week about expectations for him and kind of gauging and understanding what he still does in the stat sheet. And he had a really good second half at Michigan, but can he get back to being just a guy that takes over games and dominates like he did earlier in the season more consistently, adding into some vets who have come on, adding into a better defensive team, adding into a squad that can play with just a lot of effort and toughness as they did at Michigan. That would, of course, vault Illinois even higher towards their ceiling. And this is a chance in a prime matchup on Fox, big stakes, sold out, high pressure. I wonder how he performs in this. And Matt Painter will be trying to scheme around making things tough for him. Now, he's not the only guy. That's the great thing about Illinois' offense. I asked Brad about that yesterday. in terms of multi-dimensional playmaking. You've got him, you've got Kylan, you've got Will Riley doing his thing, you got Tommy as a passer and creator from the high post. So the essence of what I'm saying is, though, I think that in some people there was a point in time where they kind of rolled their eyes and said, John Rothstein, stop tweeting that Illinois is going to be a team that people in their bracket take to the Final Four and kind of like a sneaky 7 seed to the Final Four, 8 seed. Like, that doesn't, for a while, that just flat out didn't exist anymore. And I still question if that's real. Mm-hmm. If they win tonight, I will give a lot more credence to that idea.
I do think that that's going to be a big takeaway if Illinois wins this game, is that here come the Illini on the 7 line as a really dangerous NCAA tournament team. And I still am going to be skeptical, but it would give me a lot more confidence, especially in the way that it happens. If some of the same trends we've seen here, if you find a way to hold down Purdue's offense and look good defensively for a third straight game, if this Kylan Boswell actually, I don't want to say shuts down Braden Smith, that's so hard to do, but holds his own in that matchup and continues to trend well, and it just feels like this team has found another gear coming off everything that happened, coming off that Duke game. I mean, I do think it's a team that not a lot of people are going to want to see in any tournament setting coming up here in 2 weeks. It's a team that is red hot and now has some confidence and feels like they're playing their best basketball since early January, when the overarching narrative was this team's a Final Four contender. I'm not saying that this win vaults them back into Final Four contender status, but it at least makes you think that it's a lot more possible than we would have thought coming off that 43-point Duke game. And I just, you don't want, for all the good vibes that have happened here the last week, and even hearing some of the players talk about, man, we knew that we needed to mentally bounce back from that Duke game, and we pushed hard, but we weren't going to let that, derail our season. You lose another home game to end your regular season, it just leaves another sour taste in your mouth and is another mental hurdle that you have to bounce back from heading into the tournament. And I don't want this team to have another one of those because they've had so many of them this year. Heading into Indy and then the NCAA tournament, I just want everything to feel good for this team. I don't want there to be anything looming over them. I want it to feel like, okay, things are really positive right now.
I don't know how you couldn't feel good if you won back-to-back games that would be both quad ones, Michigan and Purdue. As of right now, Purdue's a quad 1A opportunity. They're 15th. They're right on the cut line for that. If you beat them and they fall to 16, then I know that changes it. Still quad 1, though, and still both teams ranked in the AP poll, which going into Ann Arbor, you hadn't beaten an AP ranked team since Oregon. So it had been darn near 2 months, and then to reel off back-to-back of those. Oh, by the way, and then Merez Johnson's supposed to come back. Mm-hmm. So like that would really fuel your fire for that this is about to turn up even another notch for Illinois, potentially, depending on what his status is in terms of getting back into a rhythm and how that wrist feels and getting adjusted to playing with a brace and all that type of thing. But you'd love to be riding high going into Indianapolis with a chance to make some even more noise there and just feel really good about yourselves, like you said, going into the dance. So can we talk about the marquee home game thing?
Yeah, because it's a big factor heading into tonight.
It feels like it. Like
you should feel like this is a phenomenal spot for Illinois. At home against Purdue, last game of the season. I think it's going to be an awesome environment. And yet you don't really feel like the home factor does as much for Illinois as it should based on how they've played recently. That's at least how I feel.
Yeah. And it's disappointing, but it is the reality. I think that you do have to acknowledge that the home game against Wisconsin is a massive win now. And not that it was a completely overlooked game when you beat them at the time. You just didn't know that Wisconsin, even as they showed well early, like, okay, are they going to do something similar to last year where they faded in February? And it's like, okay, that's a good win, but not an elite top-notch win. Well, that's a team that is top 15 in the net, that they've had a really, really good season, and that's viewed as a quad 1A on your resume. It just feels like the biggest build-up games at home. And I know I had the stat. It was after Michigan State. We waxed poetic about that and it was brought up yet again of this team's record against top 15 teams at home since Io left. and I forget what that. I think it was like 3-7 or something like that. Whatever it might have been. This is not a top 15 team, but it is just outside of that. It is a marquee game. And this game, the Michigan State game, which was a huge buildup, the Tennessee game, which is a huge buildup, last year's game against Purdue, huge buildup, last year's game against Marquette, huge buildup. You lost all those games, all of them. And I think
throw it back to Kofi and Trent losing to Arizona at home and losing. Now they did clinch the Big Ten at
the
home,
Iowa win. Yep.
It's even some of those Iowa teams. I remember like a top 10 Maryland matchup when Illinois started to get good again. You lose that game. Like it hasn't even just been the last 2 years.
True. Yeah, that year you had back-to-back home games against Michigan State and Maryland, and that was kind of like, let's see if they can take it up to like win the Big Ten mode. And they got humbled. They lost both of those games ultimately, and the Michigan State game was a heartbreaker. That was the Alan Griffin missed blockout, right?
And when I thought Io tore his ACL on the floor.
Yeah. And I wrote about this. And I have some – I'll just go through this so to paint a picture. Apologies, it is a little bit of a painful one. But the Michigan State game was – I was even thinking with the blowouts here, you've gotten blown out a couple times. You blow out Iowa and Michigan both by 20 points. It's been a while since Illinois played in crunch time, and that's one thing I wonder about tonight. I wonder how that's been a recurring narrative. Like this team has been dicey in late-game scenarios at times. You, of course – or as dicey as it gets, and not scoring for 8.5 minutes against Michigan State to finish that game. You go back to last year's Purdue game, you're up 2 with about 3.5 to go, but you got outscored 13-5 down the stretch. Braden Smith hits the dagger. It was a 3-point game with 20 seconds left, and he hit one just a few seconds later to make that an open and shut case for Purdue. Earlier this season, 3-point lead with 2:44 to go against number 1 Tennessee. You only scored 2 points the rest of the way and then gave up a coast-to-coast game winner. Number 4, Marquette, beginning of last year, 6:20 to go. You're down 3. You make 1 field goal the rest of the game. That's kind of that's part of the story. So I would never accuse Brad Underwood and company for not having his team ready to play. Like they had a dud. They had a letdown emotionally, or they looked ahead, or whatever it was. They got wrapped up in the moment and it didn't have it, whatever it might have been. You've been in tight games in all of these marquee matchups. You have just finished terribly. And you have failed to make enough plays, whatever that's looked like, down the stretch where the other team has went and grabbed the win and you have faltered. So that's part of the reality of it as well, is what happened. I think that's going to be a fear tonight. If Illinois has like a 4-point lead with 4 to go, do they close? That's something they haven't done well enough this season, but even like beyond that, in this spot, they have failed to do that.
And I do not like who is on the other side in terms of a closer.
Yeah.
Say what you want about Braden Smith, but that guy is a closer. And if I'm Brad Underwood this entire week, I know that only Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn and a redshirting Ty Rodgers actually remember it. I would be replaying Braden Smith telling your 16,000-person arena night on your home floor last season and say, we are not letting this happen for a second straight year. That is embarrassing. That is shameful. We're not allowing that to happen this year. If that guy can do that again, then we have failed in this game. And because that one definitely is one that stung for a long time, seeing that image and that thing get spiraled around. But he made the shot. He made the closing shot. He's done it his whole career there at Purdue. That team has played in a handful of close games this year. Have won a lot of them. Now, a lot of them been at Mackey, where they've been spectacular, and they've failed in some too. But Illinois' close game struggles this year, paired with Braden Smith having the ball, don't like it. I don't like it at all.
I'm with you on that. Now, they're going to have to get over this. Like, if they're going to go on a run in March, you got to be able to execute and get the job done in close games. Unless you're going to do the UConn thing and just blow everybody out. But I don't think anybody has any expectation of that being the reality. And I want to give KJ credit and not to gloss over it. Like, Washington game, could have let that one all the way go and lose it, where you have a huge lead and it ends up being tied. KJ goes and makes a play and wins it. Missouri blew a big lead, and boy, what that win means on your resume right now. If you didn't have it we're having a lot of a different conversation about Illinois. Credit to Kasparis, hit a big pull-up jumper, and Illinois escaped with that win as well. Can he be the guy? And it doesn't necessarily have to be one person. It's just it is interesting. I was sitting thinking about this today. Is this like the correction with the stat correction? Everybody's like, oh, regression to the mean or positive regression. Like when Io was here and there was a close game. Now, you mentioned there were some marquee opportunities that Illinois didn't maybe capitalize on. It just felt like you were going to win every one of those.
Yeah.
Right? If it was a 2-point game, 2 minutes to go, perfect. This is exactly where we want to be. Io's going to go win it for us. And now it's like, this is like really scary.
You even had it with Trent Frazier that last year. He hit a bunch of daggers and felt like, boy, he's going to make a big shot here. I think you got to give last year's team a lot of credit too. They won a lot of close games, and Damask and Shannon hit some big shots. This year, it just doesn't feel like, for as good as Kasparis is, and there was a stretch actually in early January. Again, you keep going back to that stretch because that's the last time it felt like what it could feel like if you win this game tonight. But it felt like, ooh, does Illinois have their next closer? Kasparis is a killer. Kasparis with the ball in his hands late in the game, we feel awesome about it. He's won 2 in the last 30 seconds here against Missouri and Washington. And since then, it's been a lot of bad in those situations. And just a lot of, as a team, it's not all been Kasparis all of a sudden is like turned into a turnover machine or anything like that. It's been, as a team, you have really struggled to score late in games. It's been offensively, you just have fallen into offensive droughts at the worst times to close games. And it does feel like with this team, you don't necessarily have that go-to guy. For as much as you want that to be Kasparis, it really hasn't been here for a recent stretch. I'd be curious what that looks like if this is a tie game with 2 minutes left. Do you revert back to, hey, it's Kasparis's ball, we're going to set him a ball screen and let him cook here? Or now that you have some other guys like a Will Riley who's shown that he can get downhill a little bit more and create shots for himself, or even the way Kylan's been playing, and I think we'll talk about it later, but Kylan as a driver in this game, I think, needs to be the aggressive version we saw on Sunday, and will have a lot of matchup advantages to do so and use his strength. Could you go somewhere else? Could you even play through Tommy in those moments based on what we've seen? And you even did that in that Michigan State game late when Kasparis fouled out to some success. How does that look? I'm very curious to see, because you don't really have that like number one, no doubt answer. I just don't really think it is KJ at this point. Like it's not that clear as it was early in the year.
I agree with you. It seems like late game shots with KJ have been step back jumpers. I like the sound more of a downhill action. I agree with the Kylan matchup, especially if Braden's guarding him. Now Braden can be a pesky defender, but he's given up a good amount of size to Kylan, 2 inches, but like 30 pounds ultimately. And we see what Kylan can do physically. I don't know who's guarding Will Riley for them. And that's something that him elevating at the rim or near it has been a good thing for Illinois. So that's something that I would think about as well. We'll break down the matchup more. We'll paint the picture of what this can look like for Illinois tonight to get it done against number 18 Purdue, and also what they'll have to watch out for with the Boilermakers. Braden Smith included in that, but beyond it, we'll break all of that down. How about a vibe check? 217-359-2255. How you feeling about Illinois and number 18 Purdue tonight? What would this win mean as far as your belief in this team going into the postseason? Because this is the last of the regular season stretch, and after tonight, there's only 2 games guaranteed. One in the Big Ten tournament, one in the NCAA tournament. Of course, plenty more that can be played. All right, we got more to do. Breaking this thing down, 217-359-2255. We'll be back. This is The Drive.
We all have a mission in life, something that drives us to explore, to grow, to love. And when we discover it, we're made whole. At OSF Healthcare, we want you to be the best you possible. We're here for you on your schedule to make your life just a little bit easier. Whatever your mission is, we're here to support it. Your life, our mission. Learn more at osfhealthcare.org/mission.
Well, tell me, Tim Onstad, how is it going at Gale Frericks Trucking?
Oh, we're busy. We're going gangbusters. We've got a new driver going through orientation. That leaves us one spot left for somebody that wants to get in on the action and make some money, be home, get some quality time. It's a great opportunity.
And the type of person you like hiring?
honesty, integrity, like everybody else is looking for. That guy that wants to have a family life, but be able to make some good money and do the right things.
Are you looking for experienced drivers? And if they have a military background and things like that, that's always an asset.
We do need some experience. Of course, we like getting the guys 15 years in that know what they're doing, maybe have been treated bad by other companies and need a place looking for a home. If somebody has the basics, maybe a year and a half, has a military background, I'll count that as some experience because they're used to following the process. Oh, you can always email me at timo@gftlog.com.
Kelsey Furniture in downtown Tuscola sells Tempur-Pedic beds. What's it like?
I'm going to tell you right now, Stevie, that thing is the best thing I've ever slept on in my life. My wife and I both have said we've never had better night's sleep. And the people at Kelsey's were fantastic. Brian is the guy that helped us. You know, as much as I did my research, he had a world of knowledge about beds themselves. Oh, man, it's like sleeping on a cloud, man.
Kelsey Furniture, downtown Tuscola.
In 1925, a small plumbing company began its journey in Urbana, Illinois. Over the decades, the business grew thanks to hard work and great people. In 1966, things changed when Dave Reichard, a veteran, met veteran Ken Asklin, who was an architectural engineering grad from Illinois. The two realized their shared vision for excellence. Their partnership took root, and in 1975, the name changed to A&R Mechanical. With Dave as president and Ken as vice president, A&R Mechanical expanded services, becoming the go-to full-service contractor for all of Central Illinois. A&R went from a plumbing-only contractor to a full-service mechanical contractor with their own sheet metal shop. Today, A&R is a plumbing, heating, ventilation service company with the same excellence in customer service as they provided nearly 100 years ago. Design, build, and maintain. That's what served A&R Mechanical for nearly 100 years. Find them at Lincoln and Kettering in Urbana or online at ar-mech.com.
Hi, I'm Tyler Weaver, president of Carpet Weavers Flooring and Furniture Gallery. It's time to come home to Carpet Weavers. We don't want you to just like your new floors. We want you to love them. From waterproof floors and carpet to furnitures and design advice, we've got a team of experts on your side. We'll get you the best price and the best quality products. And complete your home with furniture and accessories. Buy it all with free financing too. Come home to Carpet Weavers, where floors, furniture, and family meet.
Tim Culver, owner and president of Classic Plumbing and Air.
A plumber is a person that is well-rounded. They have education, they have experience, and they are versed in more than only one phase of plumbing. A plumber is someone that has experience in all three phases, and they understand how all three of these plumbing aspects work together as well.
Was in the heating and air conditioning business for approximately 30 years and then retired in 2021. So I came out of retirement because I'm very big on taking care of our local community. The most satisfying part of my job is when I know that I've done the right thing for the customer, taking care of the customer's happy, and when I walk out the door that I'm not afraid to put a sign out in front of their house that says, "This job was done by Chuck Thompson, Classic Plumbing and Air."
Visit them at classicplum.com.
Back on the Drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Jason asks, Purdue has had Illinois' number for a while now. When was the last time Illinois won? 2020. It was the 2020-21 season, so just after the new year into 2021. 66-58 here in Champaign. Illinois beat them, but they've won 5 straight and 9 of the last 12 against the Illini. Brad Underwood is 3-7 in his tenure against the Boilers. They did win 3 straight there, both games in the 2019-20 season. I remember especially that one at Mackey. Yep. I think that was an ESPN game, and really a big moment in that season of kind of, all right, this is for real. This is the breakout year for Brad Underwood and company. Kofi, I think, had a huge game in that one, and that was a big, big victory. But it's been a while since you've beat Purdue, and they won here last year. They won here in 2022 in that double overtime thriller that Illinois fell just short.
And a lot of these games have been really good games that just haven't gone Illinois' way. Now, I know the game at Mackey last year, Terrence Shannon didn't play, and you were down 20 for 60% of the game, but you did come back, have a possession to tie it. Didn't. That game was very close here in Champaign. That environment was spectacular last year. I expect tonight to be very similar to that. That was also the last home game senior night, I believe, right? It was like Shannon and Damascus and all those guys senior night, and then Purdue comes in, but Illinois goes cold late. Braden Smith hits the dagger, beats you there, and then that 2 overtime game was, I remember how excruciating that one was to watch, where Kofi gets some terrible Big Ten home foul calls. Garden Zach Edey is in foul trouble, fouls out. You have Benjamin Bosmans for Donk fighting Edey for part of that game, does a decent job. Curbelo comes back from concussion, has an awesome game, and you just can't squeak it out, and Purdue gets it done. So it's been some really gut punch losses here in this 5-game losing streak. It feels like tonight is the perfect night to just let all that out and kill a bunch of birds with one stone here with this Purdue rivalry, if you want to call it that. Last year was certainly a rivalry. This year, not as much without Coleman Hawkins stirring the pot on Twitter, but I still think both fan bases will be juiced up for this one.
No doubt about it. Yeah, I think that there will be enough, especially on the Illinois side, ready to beat the Boilers finally, and you respect the heck out of what they've done here recently. Matt Painter and Brad Underwood are the 2 winningest coaches in the Big Ten over the last 5 seasons. Painter has surpassed Brad, I think, in the overall win total during that stretch, and like I mentioned, he's won back-to-back Big Ten championships in the regular season. But these are 2 of the best coaches in the league, and both having decent years, I mean, relative to expectation. Of course, Illinois not as much up to the ceiling of it where people thought they would be, but maybe riding the ship here at the right time. Bryce says, any close game, I also thought Terrence would close it out just like Io did. I had a lot of confidence in him, but this season, not so much faith in any close game. I think that's a fair point on the Max Twin City Recycling text line. Mark, good afternoon, guys. A win tonight would show that maybe we are hitting our stride at the right time against good competition. Also get an awful taste out of the mouth with Duke and just get further removed from that, obviously, to kind of fill in the blanks there. No doubt about it. Mark, thanks for the text. Let's paint the picture, Kyle, of what a win would look like and what we like about this matchup for Illinois and what can be carried over from the last 2 games, notably the Michigan game against good competition and what they did there. I know you beat the drum when we talked about the Iowa matchup, Iowa having no rim protection. Purdue doesn't have much of it either, and that's something you look. They're one of the worst in 2-point field goal defense. They have an ability to get hammered down low, and with Tommy stretching out Kaufman-Renn and allowing some of Illinois' guards to get downhill either on drives or cuts. I love the cutting in the Michigan game, especially we've seen Will Riley do that, Kylan Boswell do that. But also I wonder, who's Braden guarding? Is it Kylan Boswell? Is he just going to take him to the rim all night long? Is it who's guarding Will Riley? Is it Fletcher Loyer or Cam Heide? I don't like any of their matchups against Will and his ability to go downhill. I'm not saying that KJ, not mentioning him there, can't do some of the same things, but that's where it starts for me, Kyle. If they can do some of what they've shown recently of downhill action, I think they can have a lot of success.
Yeah, the 3 things I like about this matchup, one is how poor Purdue's rim defense, 2-point defense has been. I haven't checked since, but as of their 4-game losing streak, I said it on the air, they were dead last in Division I in 2-point percentage defense since the new year began. And I believe they're dead last. Maybe Iowa has surpassed them for 18th, but I believe they're dead last in Big Ten play in 2-point percentage defense. They just don't have any rim protection without Zach Edey there, and they'll play a lot of TKR, Trey Kaufman-Renn at the 5 in lineups and space it out around them, but then they've got nothing in the paint in terms of an interior presence defensively, and that puts TKR in a bad position because he's a guy who fouls a lot too. That's another thing I think Illinois needs to try to exploit. Not, obviously overdoing it to where you're giving up your opportunity to score, but drive it right into TKR's chest, try to get him in foul trouble. He fouls a lot. He's in foul trouble a ton. Matt Painter's talked about publicly how he's got to stop fouling. He doesn't know how to go vertical and he's fouled out of a lot of games. If he's off the floor, boy, advantage Illinois. But even with him on the court, and they start Caleb First at the 5, who at least gives them a presence down there, but he's not great defensively either. I just think Illinois early in the game, emphasis needs to be attack. Your guards are going to have size advantages. I think you'll be able to put Purdue in some challenging spots with Tommy on the floor, with no Merez healthy, in that you can pull TKR or First, or depending on how Purdue plays that away from the rim, really space them out and attack an already weak paint defense. But like you mentioned, I also really like the size that Illinois can present to this Purdue team defensively, particularly their backcourt, because it feels like they have gotten overwhelmed at times. I even think of Wisconsin, who doesn't necessarily have the same level of height that Illinois has, but like Tanji's 6'5", Blackwell's 6'4", they'll throw some other guys out there, and it felt like Purdue's guards had a really tough time staying in front of those guys. And
even Klesmit's got a little size, and he went downhill in that game too.
He did, yeah. And so I think, Will Riley, who's guarding him? Is it Fletcher Lawyer at 6'4"? Is it C.J. Cox at 6'3"? Do they bring in, Heidi or whoever that is at 6'6" to try and guard him? I think he's going to have advantage. I think Kylan, if you are being guarded by Braden Smith, man, you got to try to drive it right into his chest and attack him and use your strength. Bully him downhill in any situation you can. Braden's kind of I wouldn't call him a good defender, but he does create a lot of havoc defensively if you let him. If you're just kind of stagnant and you let him get up under you and try to poke the ball out, I think he averages like 2.5 steals a game. But I think Illinois should have size there, and with what Trey White has done, and just all the size Illinois has across the court. I think Purdue has struggled with that. They have a smaller backcourt. And then the third thing is rebounding. We saw Illinois pull down 19 offensive rebounds against a Michigan team who struggles on the defensive glass. So does Purdue. This is not the Zach Edey Purdue teams rebounding the ball. They have struggled. They've given up offensive rebounds. I think they're going to have a tough time, especially with those size differences in the backcourt, but also in the front court. Those front court guys haven't been great rebounders. First is okay. He's more of an offensive rebounder, honestly. I think Illinois could have an opportunity to get a lot of those misses back, and I think you have to own the glass tonight to win. Like that needs to be the number one thing you do as well. At minimum, we're going to out-rebound Purdue by 10, and we're going to get 12, 13 offensive rebounds, because you should do that. And all it's going to take is the same level of effort that you showed in that Michigan game, and I think you can get this team on the offensive glass.
Which you should be fresh. You've had all week to get ready for this game. You should have the crowd at your back to really inspire a juiced-up effort, and that should help you as well. And, I think the roadmap is there. Illinois showed themselves. If you go back and watch the tape, or you just remember back to what was working against Ann Arbor, or in Ann Arbor, is just a level of intensity that's through the roof that Illinois can play with. They have the ability to go do that and crash the glass. And if they can replicate that, which I think Purdue's going to, Purdue has a toughness about them too, and they can show up and do some similar things to battle you. But like you said, from a size standpoint, you can just win out in some of those chases for 50-50 balls and high pointing off the glass and whatnot. So that's something that I definitely look forward to. And how about let's focus on Kylan Boswell, because I think if we're making the argument for why Illinois is in good shape tonight to have a really good chance to pull this thing off, it's how well he's played of late at both ends of the floor. He's found the confidence to go downhill. We talked about attacking the rim. And while, again, we will continue to reiterate, like, I don't think anyone is asking for him to shut down Braden Smith, but if you can force him into an average game, which he had a couple average games or below average games during their losing streak. He played at Indiana and I think went 2 for 10 from the field and had some turnovers and didn't have a very good game against Wisconsin either. He had turnovers in the Michigan State game, although he scored it better. I think he had 6 turnovers in both the Michigan State game and the other game after that, as in Indiana as well. So I just like the fact if you're going to start with trying to slow him down, you got to have a really good perimeter defender, and Kylan Boswell is very much that. Now, Brad Underwood throws the curveball if anybody's biting at that curveball in the dirt of like, we may not put him on Brayton. They're going to put him on Brayton. Like, right?
Yes.
You have to.
Yes, they
you have
are.
To. So
Brett said they might put him on Caleb first.
Yeah, I mean, he's
I
messing
think
around.
that'd be wasting.
I shouldn't
Kylan's
even
talent.
have wasted the breath of saying that he might not guard him. So he had success. Well, it's recently been against bigger defenders. We know what Mark Sears looked like against Kylan, what Boogie Flan looked like against Kylan. What do you think about Kylan's ability? What's different, do you think, about this challenge versus any others that he's gone against? And do you like, obviously, the way he's been trending, but the way this matchup looks for him in particular with Braden Smith?
I feel really good about Kylan taking on that matchup tonight. The problem is Braden Smith does so much of his work off of ball screens with TKR and with their bigs. That's where I think it's really important that Illinois has added this new wrinkle in ball screen coverage with kind of the soft hedging, stabbing out, showing on the ball handler, because you have to do that to give Kylan a chance against Smith. Just to give him a chance to stay in front, recover, because if he just gets one step on you off a ball screen and you're sitting in deep drop coverage, that mid-range jumper's going up and going in. It's just, and or he's going to drive you or throw a lob or find a shooter if you're going to overhelp. He's so smart and cerebral coming off those screens, and if you give him an inch of space, he's just going to hit a shot in your face. I think Kylan's going to need a little help because that's all Purdue runs is high ball screens with Braden Smith, and I know you wrote. And not to steal your thunder, but a lot of the rescreening action that they do with him, which is, something that totally jumps off the page. And that's a way that he'll step into some threes, which, oh, by the way, he's shooting like 60% from three over his last 2 games. So if you give him any space on the perimeter, he can just stop and pop a 3 on you. But I in terms of like keeping Braden, if Illinois can give Kylan enough help and you can continue to throw in just a little bit of hedging to try and take away that mid-range jump shot, I think Kylan can handle the challenge of like staying in front of Braden Smith, not allowing him to get 28 points. And I think that's really where Purdue is their most dangerous, is when Braden Smith is carrying them and he's having these high-scoring games. You even saw, I forget which one of the losses in the 4 straight losses was, but he had like a 6.12 assist game, but Purdue lost the game. Like 12 assists to like 2 turnovers in whatever game that was.
Wisconsin.
Pretty darn good. Purdue still couldn't win because I just think you need him to be kind of that go-to scorer. And if you're making the other guys beat you for 40 minutes, I think that's to your benefit. And that's what I think Illinois needs to focus on. Not to say that TKR can't also go for 30 points. I think he's going to be an important matchup as well. But if you're getting the ball out of Braden's hands and you're turning him into a passer and a playmaker more than a scorer, as good as he is at that, I think that's Illinois' best path, because I'd much rather see, not an open 3 for Lawyer, but Lawyer take a bunch of shots, CJ Cox, Heidi, Colvin, all those guys beat you, and not Braden Smith 28 points when he gets that same mid-range jumper when he gets to the rim. I think Kylan can at least hold him down, force it out of his hands, and force some of Purdue's other guys to beat Illinois tonight.
Yeah, I agree with all that, and that's very well said. I think that if Illinois was still sitting in drop coverage, this would be a nightmare. Braden Smith is a drop coverage killer in terms of the mid-range jumper, can hit threes. He's looking for threes, especially going 13 for 23 from deep over the last 2 games. If he gets an opening off of a screen, that thing might even be going up for 3, not 2 points, but 3 from beyond the arc. The rescreening stuff is something that we can talk more about later in the show. It's something that, I think that that's kind of their counter to teams that are trying to play really aggressive in the ball screen, like having their guard fight really hard through to beat him to a spot on that first action, and then he'll just come back the other way, and it's really hard to recover. I think this is a big game for Tommy of being effective in that soft hedge, the stab, and get back. I worry about and have wondered, because we haven't really seen Illinois play a lot of this defense, what if TKR slips that? What if he gets out of that really quickly? Is there help defense in the back end? If there is help, then that usually means guys rotating off of shooters. So is that something that Illinois can do effectively, or are they giving up threes when they play a little bit in rotation? This is really going to get tested tonight against one of the best ball screen offenses in the country, and Illinois has had time to rep their tweak to this ball screen defense, but it was one game against Iowa, and that's really all we saw. I mean, they played drop mostly against Michigan. I I remember a lot of
They did it some.
They did some stabbing, right?
Yeah, it
A little
wasn't
bit.
as heavy as Iowa.
You don't have to worry as much about their guards with Michigan, right? I mean, so I wonder what this looks like tonight, and I'm sure Brad's been repping that in practice a whole lot. So we'll talk more about that as we go along. Let's catch one more break. Come back, wrap up the first hour. We'll get to your texts, 217-359-2255. It is The Drive.
Well, tell me, Tim Onstad, how is it going at Gale Frericks Trucking?
Oh, we're busy. We're going gangbusters. We've got a new driver going through orientation. That leaves us one spot left for somebody that wants to get in on the action and make some money, be home, get some quality time. It's a great opportunity.
And the type of person you like hiring?
Honesty, integrity, like everybody else is looking for. That guy that wants to have a family life, but be able to make some good money and do the right things.
Are you looking for experienced drivers? And if they have a military background and things like that, that's always an asset.
We do need some experience. Of course, we like getting the guys 15 years in that know what they're doing, maybe have been treated bad by other companies and need a place looking for a home. If somebody has the basics, maybe a year and a half, has a military background, I'll count that as some experience because they're used to following the process. Oh, you can always email me at timo@gftlog.com.
At Pards in Urbana, the boots just keep on coming. They're known for their huge collection of men's cowboy boots, women's cowgirl boots, kids' boots, and even shoes. If you're searching for top footwear brands, look no further than Pards. They carry a wide variety, including Ariat, Dan Post, Smoky Mountain, Roper, Double H, and more. And if socks or accessories are what you need, they've got all your high-quality essentials. Since 1968, Pards has been serving their customers with high-quality merchandise. And if you haven't been to Pards in a while, a lot has changed. Go check them out just off University Avenue in Urbana.
Back on the Drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Mike says, as long as Lon doesn't have any good gut feelings about this game, we should win. My score is 82-73 Illinois.
I have some bad news.
Oh, no.
Lonte said he felt good about tonight earlier this week.
If he doesn't say it on the air on a game day, does it not count?
That's what I'm hoping for.
All right.
That's what we're going to test tonight. Since he's not here to actually say the day of the game that he feels good about it, maybe we're safe. But he did mention that he feels pretty good about this matchup earlier this week. So
now we don't need to give him an excuse to skip every game day that he feels
No,
good.
we don't.
He's like, well, I feel good, but it's game day. I don't want to jinx it.
I don't think he needs that excuse. As he went through yesterday, he's got many.
Yeah, you're right. He's been reeling them off. Big Def, Illinois 148, Purdue 23. Cold Pizza Hut and a black eye to take home with them. Well, I think people will be pretty happy about that. Cold Pizza Hut. That's good. Creative, Big Def. We appreciate that. 779, what seed are we with a win? Kyle, you've broken down Big Ten tournament seed-wise. I'm assuming the texter's asking NCAA tournament. But you win, you're at least a 7. And
You'll firmly be a 7, I think, with a home win tonight.
Is that Big Ten tournament or NCAA?
NCAA.
NCAA. Okay. Big Ten tournament, you would be a 7 with a win at least, and then a 6 if UCLA loses this weekend to USC.
That's right.
Yep. And I agree with that. I think that we'd have to see how some dominoes fall, but I would imagine that a win tonight and a loss to the Big Ten tournament, you're still probably a 7. You risk some teams in that same range making noise in their conference tournaments, and maybe you do fall to an 8. But I think that especially if that game's a quad 1 at the Big Ten tournament, you shouldn't have to worry too much. What I would be sweating an 8-9 game is you lose tonight and then you lose again. I wonder what if you lose tonight and then you win 1 at the Big Ten tournament. Is that a 7 or you're an 8?
Probably depend on opponent. Ohio
Yeah.
State would help that much more than Indiana would.
Yep.
And I think it would depend on what happens around you. Yeah,
Sure.
you'd be in a precarious spot to where you might not be in full control of where you land.
Just win tonight. You're supposed to win these games. This is a tough game. Like, don't get me wrong. Purdue is tough. They have vets. They've been here before down the stretch of a season, playing at crunch time, all that. Braden Smith's going to be very unafraid to come in here tonight and do that whole thing. But at the same time, this is where really good teams, and even just good teams win home games against teams that are even And I don't think Purdue is like in a different weight class than Illinois in terms of overall talent. And if you're like talking about both teams clicking at the same time, I think these are kind of evenly matched teams or in the same weight class. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But we've seen, of course, when teams get upset, they go on the road into a tough environment, and the home team just finds a way. And the environment and whatever it is, they step up and win. I'm not saying it's going to be easy to do that against Braden Smith and Matt Painter, but it's kind of what you're supposed to do, right?
It is. It's time to win one of these.
We'll talk a lot more about it here next hour. Hey, Jimmy Sebeski, our intern from the summer, is going to join us on the phone. He's a Purdue student, Champaign native, Purdue student. He'll give us the breakdown from the other side of this thing and see what he has to say, and then we'll get to our final thoughts going on down the show. So stick around for that. It is The Drive.
You're listening to WSJK ESPN 93.5 Tuscola, Champaign-Urbana, your home for the St. Louis Cardinals.
That in terms of getting a final settlement, it may be easier dealing with Russia, which is surprising because they have all the cards.
But following Russian missile attacks in Ukraine overnight, the president has also posted on social media he's considering tough economic sanctions against Russia. The president says he's written a letter to the Ayatollah inviting Iran to negotiate a nuclear deal with the U.S., telling Fox's Maria Bartiromo.
I would rather negotiate a deal. I'm not sure that everybody agrees with me, but we can make a deal that would be just as good as if you won militarily. But the time is happening now. The time is coming up. Something's going to happen one way or the other.
Troubled by reports that Iran is developing a nuclear weapon, the president warning if the U.S. has to act militarily to stop that, it won't be good for Iran. The Department of Homeland Security believes they have found their leakers.
DHS officials confirmed to Fox News they say they have identified two people within DHS who they say they have caught leaking information about ICE operations to different targets and then put those operations in jeopardy.
Fox's Bill Maloogian, DHS Secretary Noem says the leakers will face federal charges. America is listening to Fox News.
During tax season, your personal info travels to a lot of places you can't control. Between payroll, your home office, your tax preparer, and the IRS, if your W-2 gets exposed, that's just the ticket for identity thieves. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second. If your identity's stolen, they'll fix it guaranteed or your money back. Don't let identity thieves take you for a ride. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code CLAY. Visit LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price that works best for you, and then show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works at over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens, and it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to GoodRx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
Wall Street's up. The Dow gaining 222 points today. NASDAQ up 127. The S&P 500 closed 32 points higher, but still suffered its worst week of the year so far. The son of a Mexican cartel's drug boss will spend the rest of his life in a U.S. prison.
Ruben Oseguera was convicted last fall of conspiring to distribute drugs for import into the U.S. Prosecutors also say he ordered the killings of at least 100 people. A judge has sentenced him to life in prison, and he has to forfeit over $6 billion. He's the son of a cartel boss who's on the run, Nemesio Oseguera. Defense attorneys had asked for just a 40-year sentence for the younger Oseguera, saying he was only 14 when he was recruited into his family's drug trafficking operation. In Washington, Jill Nato, Fox News.
Life is about to end in a South Carolina prison. Brad Sigmund is to be executed by firing squad an hour from now. He'd been convicted of bludgeoning his ex-girlfriend's parents to death in 2021. This is the weekend when most parts of the country spring forward into daylight savings time.
The length of the day is finite, but to Congress, time is relative. That's why lawmakers embraced daylight saving time. It gives Americans more daylight in the evening. Some lawmakers believe the time has come to end the time shift. Congress has tinkered with daylight saving time since 1966. It shrunk standard time to just 4 months in a bill a couple of decades ago. President Trump has railed against the time change, but he's not ready to alter the clocks himself.
It's a 50-50 issue. And if something's a 50-50 issue, it's hard to get excited about it.
Shakespeare wrote, quote, "Let every man be master of his time." But that's hard when Congress decides the time.
Fox's Chat program at the Capitol. And I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Well, again, everyone, let's check weather for East Central Illinois, Champaign-Urbana vicinity, and a weak weather system on the move. Nice recovery on weather and sunshine and temperatures all combined for the weekend, and a big warm-up slated for next weekend. The start of a more active weather pattern with increasing shower and thunderstorm chances, especially the second half of next week. Corresponding with that, big warm-up in temperature readings further, and maybe some stronger weather to contend with as well late next week. But in the meantime, a few sprinkles and snowflakes this morning, touch of rain this afternoon, cloudy and 42, a little rain this evening in spots, down to about 27 with a mostly cloudy sky. Sun back in tomorrow at 45, 54, and a sunny, milder extended evening hour on Sunday. Monday 64, then up to 70 on Tuesday and close to it on Wednesday with a couple of showers and thunderstorms on Wednesday. Slightly cooler Thursday. We're back well into the 70s with showers and thunderstorms late next week on Friday, and there may be signs of an active weather pattern, i.e. stronger and severe weather at some point over parts of the Midwest late next week as well. For CVJ Broadcasting, I'm meteorologist Greg Soldier.
It is The Drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Continuing to break down Illinois against number 18 Purdue. 7 p.m. tip at State Farm Center. The game is on Fox. Bill Raftery and
Jason Benetti.
Jason Benetti, yes, absolutely. That's primetime crew, Fox. I see Illinois a 4.5-point favorite as of right now, according to ESPN. So that surprised me a little bit, Kyle. I saw Ken Pom had it as a 2-point game, but I get it in terms of the home boost, which hopefully Illinois can take advantage of.
Illinois has been the metrics darling all year long too, even though the record maybe hasn't reflected it, and that's a lot of what's baked into these lines. Purdue and Illinois are like right next to each other, and Ken Pom in the net. So,
yep. And you do expect to get that when you are the home team, and they'll have the environment rocking tonight. Now they will see probably some gold and black smattered around the arena, and it might include our good buddy, intern for the summer on The Drive, Jimmy Sebeski, joining us now on the Tapman's Towing phone line. What's up, Jimmy? You going to be in the house tonight?
I will be in the house tonight, back in town, so hopefully we can bring home a win.
Who's got a better beard, you or Braden Smith?
Probably Braden right about now. I'm a little jealous, to be honest, because I've had mine for longer, but I think he's pulling it off a little better than I do.
Do you think that he gets viewed as a villain walking into the building tonight? He did the Steph Curry goodnight after, late in that game last season, the kill shot. And I'm not saying he's Brad Davison or a guy that maybe carries like the automatic villain role, but how do you think he'll be received tonight on the Boilers walking into Champaign?
I mean, I think any place that doesn't really like us, he's kind of the head of the snake for us. So I think he just kind of replaces Edie a little bit on that villain role. And yeah, I mean, he's got a little bit of a volatile personality. He's not afraid to let you know when he's got the hot hand, and some people just don't like that. I'm gonna admit here, I probably wouldn't like him a whole lot if he wasn't on Purdue either. But I'm glad he's playing for us.
Jimmy, I want to get into the matchup. Before we do that, just kind of want to get your gauge on where Purdue's at right now. They go through the 4-game losing streak back in February, first time that we've seen Matt Painter go through something like that in 5 seasons, and they come out of it. They win by double digits against UCLA. Braden plays really well in that game, and then the Rutgers blowout, and they score 100 points. They hit 18 threes. I'm not telling you anything that you don't know, but what's kind of the confidence level in this team right now for the Purdue fan base side of things, and where do you think that just the team is at right now as one more game and then it's postseason play?
I think it's just these things, the momentum changes so quickly. And, right, we're not that far removed from Purdue. I mean, 1 week ago, right this moment, they were coming in on a 4-game losing streak. And a week later, the momentum's completely shifted. So it doesn't take a whole lot for the fan base to really react positively to a win or negatively to a loss. So I think people maybe hang on these games, these individual games, a little more than they probably should. But right now, it is nice to see Purdue making adjustments. You can see them play better, not just winning, but they're especially playing better in second halves of games, which has really hurt them in the 4-game losing streak. I think they led at halftime for 3 of those 4 losses, and then just got massacred in the second half of those games. So I'd say it's pretty confident overall. I'm pretty happy with how the team looks. Obviously, the ceiling's not super high with the interior defense being the way it is, but when you have a guard of Braden's caliber, I think it gives you a pretty high floor in March as well.
Jimmy, we've been saying today that if Kylan Boswell and company can force Braden Smith into an average night tonight, they're obviously that's kind of where you probably set the bar for hoping in terms of a formula to win this game for Illinois. And I look back in that 4-game losing streak, and not that even a Big Ten Player of the Year, if he is going to win that postseason award. I know John Tonjay's made an interesting race, but he had some struggles within that. The Wisconsin game, I think he was 2 for 10, and I know he had 6 turnovers in both the Michigan State game and Indiana. Is there anything you took away from that teams did to him that forced him into some struggles, or that was just a couple off games? He has been sizzling of late, 23 in back-to-back games and shooting the cover off the ball from 3. Just wondered, though, in those 4 games for him, was there something that the opponent made him off, or was that just kind of him being off, but now he's back in locked in?
I kind of saw an adjustment within the Michigan game. That game, he was really hot quick. I mean, he had about 14 in the first 10 minutes, it felt like. And then he went, about 20 minutes without scoring, and it wasn't really until he kind of almost willed the comeback at the end where he got back on the board. Michigan did some things in terms of just putting guys with more size on him. In fact, they put Danny Wolf on him a little bit, and that actually worked out for them. And, I mean, he had a bad game against USC shooting the game before that. So he's had some inefficient nights. And that Wisconsin game, he really wasn't that great offensively. I think for the most part, it's been just having different guys on him. Now, with Illinois having a defender of Kylan's caliber, I don't think you really have to worry about switching stuff up. But I think teams have given him different looks that he hasn't really seen before. And particularly Michigan and Indiana, who got to see him for a second time, that seemed to make a difference. Whereas in the first game around, he was really good against those two teams. So I think maybe it's just those teams got an extra look. Michigan State obviously has a really good defense. And then the Wisconsin game, I mean, honestly, Trey Coppen-Wren was doing so much on offense there that I don't think he really needed to shoot all that much. But he was 2 for 10 in that game. So I think it's honestly just teams switching stuff up, maybe not playing as much drop coverage because that's something he really does well against. And I think that Michigan and Indiana made some good adjustments there.
Jimmy, Braden gets all the headlines with this Purdue team. He's kind of the face of this new version of Purdue post Zach Edey, but you just mentioned him there. Trey Coppen-Wren is probably going to find himself on the all Big Ten first team, and I guess it shouldn't be a surprise that Matt Painter has developed another elite post player there at Purdue, because it seems like all he does here, but very different style of big than Zach Edey is. What has changed offensively for Purdue? How much of a different look is that with Braden and TKR kind of playing that two-man game versus what we've seen in the past, and just what has allowed TKR to have such a breakout season, makes him so hard to stop offensively?
I think because of TKR's mobility and his ability to shoot a little bit further away from the rim, and I mean, he can knock down the three. He hasn't attempted one in a really long time, but with Edey, it was pretty simple formula. It was, you get some pick and rolls, but mostly it's, park yourself on the block and, just win on your right shoulder hook shot there. And, just you're 7'4", nobody's going to stop it. Whereas, TKR can kind of get the ball at the elbow, get it a little bit further away from the basket and maybe create for himself a little bit more. He's got a little bit of handle on the ball. But on the flip side, he doesn't give you what Zach did defensively or the volume that Zach gives you, but he's about as efficient as you is. Zach was about 63% last year. I think right now Trey is 61% from the floor. For for me, what I want to see from Trey is just a consistency of volume. I think a lot of these games, especially in these losses, we see, like in the Wisconsin game, he was 12 for 16 and you lose. I think he needed to take more than 16 shots because a lot of teams just really haven't been able to figure him out. Outside of really Indiana as of late was the only team that really had anything to do with him, and that was really because of Umar Ballo's ability to push him out. And I think they did a smart thing doubling him and forcing him to turn the ball over, which has been a big thing for him. Purdue's record when he turns it over 3 times or more is very bad, and when he does it 2 times or less, I think they're 18-1 this year. So I think forcing him to pass, sending doubles, giving him different looks, and not just leaving him one-on-one would be what I would do against him.
Jimmy Sebeski on the Tapman's Towing phone line giving us the Purdue perspective ahead of tonight's game against the Boilers, 7 p.m. at State Farm Center. Let's shift to the Boilers' defense. Jimmy, I mentioned it earlier in the show that these teams are profiling very similarly over the last month. A top 10 offense and then outside of the top 100 in defense. We have mentioned it's kind of obvious to see 2-point field goal defense, rim defense for them have been a struggle. What have you seen within that and with Illinois in particular, a stretch big and Tommy, they can pull TKR away from the rim when he's the 5. I know that now playing first, maybe that's a choice between one of those guys, but is that a big concern for you from the Purdue side of things tonight about how they could get attacked at the rim? And why do you think it has been such a struggle to challenge at the basket this year?
Well, I mean, Purdue's for the last decade has recruited a style of play where, they're not going to force a ton of turnovers and they're going to have an anchor down low like a Zach Edey that can alter shots, get rebounds, and that's kind of their defensive strategy. It's force jumpers, force tough shots at the rim because you don't really get a whole lot of good looks when Zach Edey's down there. Now when they had Daniel Jacobson coming in, we thought that we were just going to get a smooth transition and still have that really good defender. He goes down in the second game of the year, breaks his leg, and that really forced Matt Painter to do some different things. And, Will Berg really didn't pan out as much as Purdue had hoped. Raleigh Burgess is just a little bit not ready yet, so it kind of turned into Caleb First. And in January, Purdue maybe looked like they turned it around by having this really aggressive switching defense that forced a ton of turnovers. They had a 3-game stretch where they forced 60 total. And then really since then, teams have figured it out. And I think UCLA had turned it over 14 times outside of that. And I think the highest they've forced since then is 11. And that goes back to February 1st. So for Purdue, they had to make a big switch there. But, I mean, if you take care of the ball against Purdue, you're going to score, especially at the rim. The 2-point defense is currently, I believe, 338th in the country out of 364. So for me, Ivisic at the 3-point line, he can make them, but I'd prefer him to shoot 3s rather than 2s because I think him not being in the lane to rebound would actually be a benefit to Purdue. Now, if he knocks him down, then it's going to be a tough night.
Jimmy, is there a certain guy in Illinois that scares you from Purdue's perspective? I know that they've had a number of options here recently. Kylan's played a lot better. Of course, Kasparis is the lottery pick projected and has done a lot of really good things this year. Will Riley has had a great month, really, coming on and becoming a lot more consistent. So where would you pinpoint that in terms of, whether it's a mismatch or just a guy that tonight you're looking for on the Illinois side that might tell you how this game's going to go?
I think for me, the more concern is, and you ask yourself this a lot as a Purdue fan, is who's Fletcher Loyer going to pick up and guard here? Because everybody else, I think, can kind of hold their own. That whoever the third guard in the lineup, whether it's T.J. Cox, Jakari Harris, or Miles Colvin, those guys are pretty solid defenders. Obviously Cam Heide helps you out defensively off the bench a little bit. But in terms of Purdue's normal starting 5, if Fletcher's guarding Trey White or if it's Will Riley or whoever, I just don't know who he would pick up there. Will Riley, I think, would be the obvious answer of like a who you put on him because, there's no real obvious answer there. That he's just a tough matchup. And I think that just speaks to Illinois' depth because they have so many of these guys that can kind of score on multiple levels and do a little bit of everything, and kind of the modern game of basketball. So I think the overarching answer is whoever Fletcher's guarding, to simplify it.
It's a good way to put it. Yeah, I've wondered the same thing. All right, Jimmy, you know the story. 5 straight wins for Purdue in this series, and I'm sure you're not mad about that, no doubt about it. You think that continues tonight? I'll put you on the spot and have you make a pick. You going with the Boilers? I kind of assume you would, but maybe you'll surprise us. I'm not pressuring you, though, one way or the other. What do you think?
I think we're gonna come out with a victory today. I mean, it's more maybe hoping than thinking, but really, I think as long as Purdue can make the rebounding game reasonable, they're not going to win it most likely. But as long as you can stay under 10 on the rebounding margin and not let Illinois do what they did on Sunday against Michigan and just kind of single-handedly win the game on rebounding, I think then Purdue can make enough shots because, I mean, they've been red hot shooting threes as of late. They're 8th in the country overall on the year. And I think that they can do enough there to take care of the ball, rebound just enough, and make enough shots to get a win. So I think I like Purdue in a close one. I don't see this being a blowout either way unless Illinois just dominates the glass. And I think it'll probably be pretty high scoring with both defenses not being particularly stellar as of late.
Yeah, Kyle and I have agreed with that for sure. Are you worried about the sweep? Are you worried about the Jimmy Sebeski sweep? Because Illinois beat Michigan, of course, in the rededication game. They beat Purdue. Purdue almost pulled off what would have been a disastrous of an upset here in football. And then I know they just beat your Wolverines in basketball. Not to dog on you, Jimmy, but are you feeling extra pressure tonight knowing that this could be the last one?
There's definitely a lot of pressure because the football games were back-to-back weekends as well. So, I mean, I've had a lot of opportunity for a lot of glory or a lot of misery, and so far we're 0 for 3 here. So hopefully we can get one in the win column. But at the end of the day, I'm just kind of hoping Purdue plays well because I don't think that a loss would drop Purdue out of that 4 line. Now, if they lose in the first round of the Big Ten tournament, then it probably will. But Purdue, win or lose, is probably going to be the 5 seed based on how the tiebreakers work, which that's a whole nother thing that I don't particularly agree with. But you're looking at Purdue most likely playing in that 5 seed game no matter what happens. So for me, it's nice to have an opportunity against a team that's really good, that's got a lot of talent, the type of teams you're going to see in the tournament, and then to do it on the road as well, where it's not going to really impact your season a whole lot. It's just going to be a very good matchup. So, I mean, from my personal pride, yeah, there's a lot on the line there. But from Purdue's season, I think it's kind of a low-risk, high-reward situation here.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Jimmy Sebeski, great breakdown. Appreciate the time, man. Good catching up with you. Hope you're doing well. And I won't wish your team good luck tonight. I don't think the fans would like that. But certainly hope you enjoy the game, and we'll catch up sometime.
Yep, for sure.
All right, thanks. Jimmy Sebeski on the Tapman's Towing phone line, giving us the Purdue breakdown going into tonight. He thinks close win for the Boilers, which would be in line with what they've done here recently against the Illini. I'm sure that's popular out there. But, hey, he's giving you your honest opinion. I could see it. I could totally see that being the way it goes.
You gave the numbers, 9-12, 5 in a row.
Yeah. Got to change it.
That's got to change, but Illinois had some really good teams here, hasn't been able to do it. It is just a respect for what Matt Painter has done here recently. Obviously, Edey was a big part of it, but now you got Kaufman-Wren averaging 20. He's going to be on the All-Big Ten first team along with Braden Smith, who, let's not forget, had one high major offer, and it was Matt Painter. What he's done is pretty remarkable, and that's the other factor going into tonight. I think he's going to have Illinois very well scouted, well prepared, and it's going to be a big challenge for the Illini because he's a heck of a coach.
Something you got to be able to battle against preparation-wise, adjustment-wise. You get into the crunch time of a game, last 5 minutes, and what's he going to draw up or what button is he going to push versus Brad Underwood and company on the other side. That will be a very interesting chess match, and you hope to beat a coach like that in this spot and knowing what it can mean for Illinois and, again, being on your home floor. And you certainly respect the heck out of who you're going against. It's a high-quality opponent, but a real chance to end this streak and have a resume win and momentum going into the postseason. So that's something that Illinois will look to get done tonight. Will we be picking the Illini to get it done? We'll give you that answer later in the show. We're due for a break. Before we do that, let me do a little work. Let me tell you about Busey. Refresh, renew, restore your home. As the spring nears, the sunshine ushers in warmer temperatures. To start, focus on high-impact projects that will give you the most return. Entryways, outdoor spaces, and high-traffic rooms like the kitchen. These quick and budget-friendly home refreshes can help you ditch those lingering winter doldrums. Take a tip from Mother Nature and turn up the color. You may not be able to make the grass turn green, but you can certainly add color to your decor. You only have one chance to make a great first impression. While you have the paint out, why not bring vibrancy to your vestibule? Freshen up your outdoor area. As the weather warms up, we are drawn to the outdoors. Have a fresh space that will only add to the enticement. Let the sun shine in. Cleaning windows and mirrors can allow your home to really shine. And cook up a serene space in your kitchen. Whether your home refresh is as simple as decluttering and updating, whether you need a contractor, Busey's team can help you get started. The home equity loan or a line of credit. Visit with a Busey loan professional at one of their many conveniently located branches or learn more at Busey.com. Busey, member FDIC.
You've set your financial goals. One kid plans to go Big Ten, the other Ivy. Your bucket list includes seaside sunrises and sunsets on the slopes, or perhaps a second home away from it all. Busey Bank can help develop the right investment strategy to take charge of the years ahead. Busey Bank, building business, growing wealth since 1868. Proud to be the official bank of the Fighting Illini. Member FDIC.
I need to speak with someone in charge, a manager. Who's the manager?
Yes, ma'am. This is Paul Reekin from Dick Van Dyke Appliance World. How can we help out?
Picture this, Paul from Dick Van Dyke, if that's your real name.
I'm also not wearing khakis, but go ahead.
I get home from work and I need a cold drink with ice. And instead of feeling that cool, refreshing air, I get warm air and a whiff of rotten meat.
That's gross.
So here's what I need, Paul from Dick Van Dyke. I need a new refrigerator.
We have hundreds in stock.
Don't get fresh with me, mister.
Excuse me?
I need it delivered tomorrow.
We have next day delivery guaranteed Monday through Saturday.
I want it at this price.
We guarantee the best deal.
I want an extended protection plan.
I'll give you one for free.
Now, don't get smart with me, young man.
No joke. It's free, and I'm 49.
Well, wow.
That's what we say, but why did you ask for a manager?
How else would I get this deal?
You don't need the manager. We do this for everyone, every day at Dick Van Dyke Appliance World. And just like Dad says, wow.
When you buy from us, you get the whole store.
Illinois basketball season is underway. Single game tickets to see your Fighting Illini at State Farm Center are on sale now at fightingillini.com. Great seats are still available. Lock in your tickets for big games against Big Ten opponents before they're gone. Don't miss your chance to see the winningest team in the Big Ten Conference over the last 5 years. Be part of the atmosphere and get tickets at fightingillini.com.
PDR Automotive has now been serving the Champaign-Urbana area for over 50 years. To give you some perspective, 50 years ago ended the U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War, and it was when Secretariat won the Triple Crown. So what does that mean for you and your vehicle? Whether you need a carburetor overhauled or your new vehicle computer system diagnosed or programmed, PDR Automotive has the experienced, knowledgeable staff that can handle all your automotive needs. Online at pdrauto.com, they are what's best for your truck or car. They are PDR.
In 1925, a small plumbing company began its journey in Urbana, Illinois. Over the decades, the business grew thanks to hard work and great people. In 1966, things changed when Dave Reichard, a veteran, met veteran Ken Asklin, who was an architectural engineering grad from Illinois. The two realized their shared vision for excellence. Their partnership took root, and in 1975, the name changed to A&R Mechanical. With Dave as president and Ken as vice president, A&R Mechanical expanded services, becoming the go-to full-service contractor for all of Central Illinois. A&R went from a plumbing-only contractor to a full-service mechanical contractor with their own sheet metal shop. Today, A&R is a plumbing, heating, ventilation service company with the same excellence in customer service as they provided nearly 100 years ago. Design, build, and maintain. That's what served A&R Mechanical for nearly 100 years. Find them at Lincoln and Kettering in Urbana or online at ar-mech.com.
At ABC, it's your chance to get that air conditioner and furnace you've needed. ABC Heating and Air Conditioning can now offer 12 months same as cash, 9.9% financing, or up to $2,000 cash back on residential Amana units. Whether you need a furnace and or air conditioner, you can take advantage of this deal through the end of March. ABC means always be comfortable. Let locally and family-owned ABC take care of you. Call Gina today at 217-352-5400 or visit abcheatingandac.com.
At Carpet Weavers Flooring and Furniture Gallery, we're flooring people with amazing service, great design advice, and unbeatable selection and the best prices in town. It's the perfect time to update your home with waterproof flooring, carpet, hardwood, tile, and more. Then complete your rooms by shopping our incredible selection of furniture and accessories. We also offer great financing options. Carpet Weavers Flooring and Furniture Gallery, we're flooring people.
Back on the drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5, Max Twin City Recycling text line 217. Matt Painter and our recent history in high-profile home games has me not terribly optimistic. Certainly understand that. Wade says, good Lord, I hope high knees is not an official tonight. Anybody watching out? Conference tournaments? I don't feel like he'd be at the Valley. No disrespect to them. By the way, Lon Salukis did go down in action today to Drake. I know he's a guy that you don't want to see tonight if you're an Illini fan, and I don't know what to make of that if he would show up, other than I don't know.
Maybe for once Illinois could get a nice home whistle. TKR on the bench with too early.
Yeah.
High knees makes up one of his phantom calls for Illinois. For once, he owes us one.
Does feel that way.
Owes them one, as Lon would say, professional.
Yeah,
Can't
right.
be saying us.
I mean, you can. Braden Smith gets the Kasparis at East Lansing treatment.
Ooh, imagine how that would go on social media circles.
Right. I'd rather just have it. Yeah, I mean,
let's just play, see what happens.
Should be a really, like we said it, Jimmy said it, high-scoring game, very entertaining, back-and-forth battle, I would imagine. Great atmosphere in the building. Like, this should be awesome. And you just hope to be the team that comes out with it at the end, and that will matter a lot how we feel about what should be a great game. But, yeah, let's just let the teams play. Don't get in the way if you're a refereeing crew, and see where that stands ultimately. I was pulling this up during the break, Kyle. ESPN put out, within the last week, their updated top 100 prospects for the NBA draft. KJ did fall out of the top 5. This is Jonathan Givony. He put Kasparis Giacochonis at number 6. Just wanted to read you a snippet of that. Says, after building an impressive resume over the first 3 months of the season with his stellar play, Giacochonis hit a bit of a wall in February, seeing his productivity drop across the board while hitting just 22% of his threes. I did look that up. If you went from the end of the Indiana game, his first game back, all the way up to the Michigan game, he only shot 21% from 3 during that stretch. Now, he did make 3, I think, against Michigan. And one thing I noted in my article when I was looking at this, he did take more catch-and-shoot jump shots in that game, 5 of them, than any other game he has this season. Is that something that can make him more efficient, take some pressure off of him?
I thought there was a chance you were going to say he made more than the rest of the season combined, because it sure feels that way.
Yeah.
Boy, he never got any of those.
He hasn't gotten any of them. And I know that Givony mentions here he'll need to rediscover his mojo quickly. I'm sure that to fill in the blank there, to remain as a bona fide top 7, top 8 pick, right? I don't think he's going to fall off a cliff or anything.
No.
He's going to be a lottery pick.
He's shown enough.
But a guy that sat there firmly in the top 5 for a while, maybe just outside now, but still in the top 10.
We see how much these big spotlight games can do for NBA prospects, though, and how much a guy's stock can raise with a big-time performance in the NCAA tournament. If he rediscovers his early January form in the postseason, maybe you could see him back in the top 5. Maybe you could see him back in that range that you saw.
For sure. No, something I've been thinking about recently, where are we at as far as the confidence in him as your A guy going into postseason play? Now, you hope that he's not in a situation. I'm really encouraged by the fact that what's progressed here recently with Will Riley, the way he stepped up, with hopefully what Kylan Boswell is able to carry over going forward, is that it's not just going to be a KJ, you're going to determine our future. You're going to be the guy that takes us either to the Sweet 16 or beyond or not. It doesn't have to be all of him. But I'm hoping that whether it's tonight against Purdue, which is a big spot, or here in the next week or so, that we're kind of given more and more evidence, reason to believe that he can be that guy. He's still an 18-year-old. He's a guy that over the last month, going back to what Gavoni says, kind of hit a little bit of a wall. He did have a good second half against Michigan. What do you think about the confidence that he'll be that person in March, of course, tonight and beyond?
I think there's a little bit of a trade-off there, because for as much as I want KJ to be the best version of himself and be that like bona fide top 5 pick, all Big Ten first team level star go-to scorer type, I don't know if that's necessarily the best path for Illinois down the stretch, because I really like the fact that you haven't had to put as much on his shoulders here recently. You've been able to take some of that ball handling load off him, whether it's with Kylan, whether it's getting Will involved a little bit more, or whether it's Tommy, a guy that Illinois has played through. That's allowed him to get, as you referenced there, maybe a little bit more offense created for him as opposed to him having to do everything. There was a point early in the season, and he was thriving at it for a while, and then hit a little bit of a wall where, I mean, we even talked about it on the show, Illinois' offense is KJ or bust. I mean, ball's in KJ's hands every time down the floor. It's going to be ball screen, ball screen, ball screen with KJ. Late in the game, it's KJ bail us out, hit a step back three, go score for us. There was success with that, but also there was a point where that just got too easy to guard, and it also hurt him, and teams had him scouted better, and that's where you saw some of these high turnover games where he just was a shell of himself at one point. So I think it's really beneficial for him to not have to be that. As an 18-year-old freshman point guard, for him to not have to carry an offense himself, I think is a benefit to him, also a benefit to Illinois. But I do want to have a little bit more confidence than I do right now in him, like in that win or go home moment, that he's the guy, that ball's in his hands, and I have a lot of confidence that he's going to make something good happen. I still do, to a level, not as much as I did earlier in the season. I'd like to see maybe that version of him unlocked again, whether that's in this game or at some point in the Big Ten tournament, to where maybe late in the game he does just take over offensively, or there's a stretch in a game where he does have one of those big scoring nights, just to know that it's still there, and just to know that you still have that level of guy that you can count on if you have to. But I do like the fact that he has gotten a lot more help here recently from a playmaking perspective.
No doubt. Yeah, and it could be as simple as just cutting out some of the sloppiness, some of the turnovers that could kill you in March, and especially as you think about, you know, some of the 2 seeds you could run into, like a Tennessee and Iowa State, if they're in that position. Some of these athletic defenses that could bother him, is that something that he can clean up going down the stretch of March Madness? And also, I mean, it doesn't have to, again, be the heavy lifting, score 20 to 25 in a game, but just key spots. If you're in a drought, can he get you a big bucket? Can he get fouled going to the rim? Especially maybe tonight, he has a size advantage, 6'6", against if he gets a smaller Braden Smith on him. Although, who do you think Braden guards? Is it going to be Kylan?
I think it'll probably be Kylan.
Yeah, I would imagine
6
so
foot.
too.
And just, even though Kylan's looked better recently, I still think that's a guy you're not terrified of, can just destroy you offensively. And it also maybe allows Braden to roam a little bit and try to, jump a passing lane, just because you don't have to respect Kylan as much as a shooter right now. That's probably where I would land.
Yeah, I don't know who's going to guard Will Riley, who's number 22 on Gavoni's list. Says here, Riley had a breakout February, reminding scouts of what made him such an intriguing prospect. Combination of size, shot making, passing, his lack of strength and struggles defensively to make him a longer-term prospect from an NBA standpoint. It does feel like if he's close to what he's been here of late, he's going to cruise into being a middle of the first round type of guy. Is there any way to middle this if you're an Illinois fan? Like, he'll play well enough for Illinois to go on a run, but that he'll be somewhat considering coming back. I just feel like they're kind of one and the same. If Illinois goes deep, Will Riley will have a big hand in it, and he's gone. I think he's probably gone anyway. I would put it at what, 90 to 95%. Maybe that's a little strong. I know that Sam Vecini, the Athletic, has him at 40-something, 49 on his big board, so he's not as high as some others are on him.
That interests me a lot right there because of how respected Vecini is. It feels like he should be, and almost everywhere else I've seen is a consensus like mid to late first-round guy. But to have such a prominent draft analyst have him at 49, does that mean that there maybe are more mixed opinions than we thought?
I have heard that there are. I've asked around it from as far as what's been able to be gauged from Illinois' side of things when they talk to NBA people. There are varying opinions, which, I mean, that comes with a lot of different prospects, especially if you're not Cooper Flagg, if you're not within the top 5 to 10, there's going to be, I would assume, who had teams that really liked him and teams that were lower on him. And even obviously Terrence Shannon, a guy that was a 23-year-old, do you want to draft him in the first round at that age? Will's only 19, but I think some of the strength standpoint, the defense, but he's been really consistent offensively in terms of his role recently. And I just think, I've said it before, the playmaking, which I think could show again tonight, you're using that size to get into the paint, get around there, the spin moves, how composed he's looked. Like, it's hard to teach that at that size, and he's a tough matchup with that. And he's also been able to see the floor and make passes.
He has grown a ton, and you've just seen him progress ever since that stretch for about a month there where he was really struggling. It felt like early in the season he had some big scoring games. He obviously had the season opener where he stormed onto the scene with 31, but he had a nice month in November, even had a couple other stretches here and there, but it felt like it was all shot making. It was all, is a shot going down? He was shooting like 60% from three early in the season. And honestly, if you look at his three-point numbers here, even during this last stretch where he's been good, they're not great. I mean, I think he's shooting like 31% from three. On the season now he's at 31%, which has fluctuated a lot. But it just feels like he's added so much to his offensive game, where all of a sudden he's not just a shot maker, where it's, well, if the jumper's falling tonight, we could have a heater from Will Riley. If it's not, he's going to be largely unplayable, not give you much. Or he has to get either a three or get to a contested pull-up jump shot, some of those hard shots that he was thriving on early in the year and then dried up for him at a point. Now he's a guy that has used a lot more craft. He's gotten to the rim. He's used his size. He's been a really hard cutter to where he's made himself available for Tommy and for other guys to find him. And the decision-making and the playmaking that he's shown, where you can put the ball in his hands and it's not always going to go up. He's also been able to find other guys, and I think that is something that the NBA will salivate over, a playmaking 6'8" wing with the shot-making potential that he has.
Right.
I think is everything the NBA is looking for, and he'll continue to add strength and probably improve defensively as well. So I just would be surprised. And to answer your original question, I think we're past the point of middling, because for him to drop enough at this point for him to be a viable option to come back, I think he'd have to have a disastrous finish to the season, which from Illinois' side of things would be very costly.
Yeah, and it might not be no coincidence that the buzz is picking up on Dame Sarr over there in Italy, a high-profile wing who I don't think you're having both those guys in your team next year. I think that Dame would want the role that Will has had, and Will progressing to look like a bona fide first-round pick or top 40 pick, I think would be safe to say right now. Ultimately, that opens up the window for him to make that jump. I know we're going to catch a break here soon. Real quick on the rest of this list, notable names. Tomislav Ivisic, 62 on the big board for Gavoni. I think that's where you want him to be Illinois-wise. I don't think he climbs to being anywhere probably above the top 50. Means even if he's a second-round pick, it's a two-way deal. You get more money back in college for him to play one more season at Illinois. That was kind of the goal going in. I will say also, though, Braden Smith, 81. TKR is 85. I think you're going to see both those guys back in West Lafayette
Can
next year.
Can we get Braden Smith to the 30s or something just to make that a
Don't want it to
decision?
be something they did tonight, getting him in the 30s.
Yeah, that's
I know
true.
that. No doubt about it. Big Def, I really hope Will goes to the NBA. Really worried about retaining him if he stays in college. He'd be very costly, just in general.
That's the other part of it, too, is if you were to come back to college, now Illinois, I'm sure, would make him the priority.
Yeah.
But Illinois is not the only team that'd be interested in making that call.
No doubt. Yeah, I just think in general, anyone that's projected to go in the first round, the money just, you'd have to go so far and beyond anything we've seen at NIL up to this point, and it just makes more sense to go to the NBA if that's the position you're in. All right, 217-359-2255. Continue to weigh in on the Max Twin City Recycling text line. We'll give our predictions when we come back. Illinois-Purdue tonight at the State Farm Center. It is The Drive.
From computer systems to brakes and tires too, at PDR, fixing cars is what they do. Remember, when you turn the key and the car won't run, call 367-9481 or use their dedicated text-only line at 383-0619. Additional information including repair quotes and online scheduling requests available from the website at pdrauto.com. Remember, they are what's best for your truck or car. They are PDR.
Take charge of the years ahead with a smart, sound investment strategy and business succession plan. Busey Bank's business and wealth management experts help you envision your best future with powerful insights and proven strategies. Building business and growing wealth since 1868. Busey Bank, proud to be the official bank of the Fighting Illini. Member FDIC.
Well, tell me, Tim Onsett, lawn mowing season soon, Dixie Chopper, dedicated diesel. It's off Route 45 as you're heading toward Rantoul. You turn left on Triumph Drive till you can't drive anymore, and you'll be right there. And you've got some Dixie Choppers I could buy.
Oh, yeah. Andy's got his hands full with Dixie Choppers, and stop by, see Andy, get a great deal on a mower.
Fastest mower you can buy, so you don't have to spend 2 hours out there. You might spend 45 minutes, and plus, Andy can tune it up or fix it.
Sure he can. Yeah, we got a full shop ready to go. Whatever you need.
When it comes to early on here in the spring, it can be, weeds up to your mid-thigh or whatever. So sometimes you need a really tough kind of mower to get through all that in the brush.
Well, yeah, these are built solid. They'll get through that stuff, and all of the structural components have a great warranty. So if something does go wrong, we can definitely get it fixed. Get Andy at Dedicated Diesel, 217-328-0562, or Dedicated Equipment on Facebook.
My name is Jim Brookins. I own my lawn care service for over 15 years now. I've met a lot of great people doing this. Most of the people I meet, they become great friends. I do edging, weed eating. I blow everything off so it looks fantastic when I'm done. I believe, in my mind, I do the best. Usually my average range is usually around $40 per yard. You can call me 217-621-8807. 217-621-8807.
Not every remodel project is as easy as the couple on the Home Improvement Channel make it look. From old furniture to construction debris, a home remodel can quickly turn into a junk pile. 2 Men and a Junk Truck is here to make your home improvement dreams a reality. They offer hassle-free junk removal and dumpster rentals to clear the way for your next big project.
Perfect.
Use code REMODEL25 to save $25 on your next service. 2 Men and a Junk Truck, making your home improvement journey a breeze. Visit 2menandajuncktruck.com. Offer valid at 2 Men and a Junk Truck, Champaign, Illinois.
Here's the deal. When you combine State Farm home and auto insurance, you save an average of $889. State Farm agent Kurt Lenschow is ready to help you combine home and auto and save right here in Champaign-Urbana. Call 352-1411 today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Average annual per household savings based on a 2019 national survey by State Farm of new policyholders who reported savings by switching to State Farm.
Back on the drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. It's about time for predictions, Kyle. Before we get there, you want to introduce our guest host?
No, I don't. I don't know. I don't know if I approved this.
You got to turn
guest.
his mic on. You got to introduce him.
On. Is this thing on?
It is now.
Nice.
This is my father, Dan Tosk.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I'm so happy to meet Derek, and I thought, for sure you'd want to hear at least a couple good stories about Kyle.
Would love it.
You
Absolutely.
have the wrong impression of him all this time, but no, he's been a little broadcaster since he was a little kid. It's pretty funny. We used to do a Super Bowl pre-game. He wanted to run his own Super Bowl show, so we'd set up early in the morning. He'd have all the gimmicks and everything. We'd have fake headsets and all that kind of stuff. He'd make Mom come in and analyze the running backs for a segment, stuff like that. It was great.
No wonder he's so polished now. He's got all that pre-college experience. I've been really impressed. I mean, he's obviously been awesome for our show, and but now it aligns. Makes sense.
Yeah. No, his grandfather would babysit for him, and when we came home from the date, he'd have a fully produced sports section. This is when he was a little kid, and each page would have Kyle starring. He'd be like, Kyle scored 37. Rose had 10.
8 sport athlete.
And the Bulls defeated so-and-so. It's great. So he's been this has been his dream for a long time. I just really appreciate you and Lon and Diane and Stevie and everything you guys have done for Kyle. So he's living his dream right now. It's awesome.
You got a little radio history in your background too. You tell me about Kendall Gill.
Yeah, no, back in the day, good old K104 when Diane was there back, and I was fortunate enough to be here in '89. So that Flying Illini Final Four team, plus the football team with Simeon Rice and Jeff George and that crew. So I really had a magical senior year. I got to be good buddies with Kendall. He'd come on my radio show and talk Illini hoops a lot during that stage. So it was really, really fun time. But my career never went anywhere. We're hoping Kyle can go further. So we'll see.
I think early returns are promising. I would say.
Awesome.
If I were to put a crystal ball on that, I would say they are promising with Kyle there. And also, I mean, speaking of promising, you maybe have already kick-started it with the '89, but when Kyle's been in school, times have been good too. 10-win season on football, basketball, Elite Eight last year. I mean, now we're just expecting great. We need him to go to grad school, number one. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think Illini fans need him to stick around a little bit longer if that's okay.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's as much for me as it is for you guys. I mean, I need Illini to keep winning, so if it means Kyle has to stick down here and, work at Wendy's just to make it happen, I mean, I think we're going to have to keep this string going for sure.
I think he'd sign off on that because he's a lot more even emotional about Illinois than I am. He'll send me the angry text. I turn this game off. I can't stand this anymore. So I think he wants to have as much Illini success as possible.
That is one more thing I want to ask you before we get to predictions. Kyle shows us, I think, progressively a little bit more of some of the, I don't know, coming out of his shell. Like when the Cubs are on and they're blowing a game in the ninth, I sit back and just smile. I'm a Cardinals fan. Sorry to say that. But I just like how he gets frustrated and gets worked up a little bit. We see it on Twitter every once in a while a little bit. Has he got that in him, I think?
Man. He's the most mellow kid at home. He barely talks. And then he comes here and you can't shut him up. And I love, I know what you're saying, Derek. I love the Kyle rant. When you get a little Kyle rant going, and you can get, usually the Cubs will get him going. Some good Cubs topic will get him going.
Well, the Dolphins had me going this year.
Dolphins coaching staff. There's certain hot buttons you can hit and just let him rant a little bit. And that's when his other side comes out, which is awesome.
Getting a little spicy. I just like that. All right. Is it going to get spicy tonight on the court at State Farm Center? It should. It's Illinois versus Purdue. It's a team that Illinois hasn't beaten since 2021. 5 straight losses against Matt Painter. Braden Smith 3-0. Did they go to sleep? Steph Curry last year. Should we have your dad kick off?
Yeah,
what you got?
guest starts.
All right, here we go.
Sweet.
What you got?
Sweet. So, yeah, I heard Jimmy on, of course, give his homerism. You could expect that. No, I think, this team's been really frustrating up and down, and just like you guys have been talking about all year, and you don't really ever know totally what you're going to get. But I think it's senior night. I think it's the home season finale. They've got some momentum on their side. That Michigan win was awesome. And I don't think it's going to be a nail-biter. I think I'm going to go Illinois 83, Purdue 72.
I like it. 11-point win, double-digit. Get out of maybe crunch time without having to sweat too much every possession down the stretch. That'd be great to see. Really encouraging for Illinois fans if that happens. Kyle, are you falling in line?
I am. I think Illinois gets it done tonight. I think it's going to be a really high-scoring, fast-paced, electric offensive game between two really good offensive teams. You laid out the numbers here, how both teams have trended recently on both sides of the floor. I think we see that play out tonight. I think Illinois found some success on Sunday on the offensive end. You've got Kylan Boswell, Trey White in a good spot offensively. I think Kasparis will rise to the challenge and at least give Braden Smith a run for his money for best point guard on the floor. But I think it's going to be hard to fully hold down that duo of Braden Smith and TKR and everything they put you in with those ball screens, how hard it is to guard. One of those two guys is probably going to have a big night. I think this one gets close to 90. but I got Illinois getting it done 89-86 Illini.
Ooh, a sweat.
And I do think they get it done in crunch time for the first time in a long time. I think there's a big late shot with under a minute to go by Kasparas Jakučionis to seal it.
I'd love to see it. I think the sweat would not be the most pleasant thing, but it would be something that would give you confidence that they could pull a game like that out in March Madness. I'm on a similar line in terms of high scoring, close game. I picked Illinois 83-80. I think it's a big night for Will Riley. I don't know who matches up with him on the Purdue side of things. I think Jimmy makes a good point. Wherever Fletcher Lawyer is, and Brad said yesterday they can match up Hunt. That's a matchup that I think they will go after. And just the downhill ability of different guys to attack that against TKR. Don't fall in love with the 3 too much. I know that's a lot of fans saying that pretty much every night with this team. But you will have a hard time shutting down Braden Smith. I think Kylan isn't well positioned to challenge him possession after possession. And Illinois gets it done at home in the regular season finale going into postseason play with some momentum.
Total jinx that we just went 3-0 for the Illini. I almost want to take my pick back just to make it.
That's the College Game Day screenshot that gets put out there. Like everybody picks this team and the other team wins. Yeah.
Added on top of Lon's good gut feeling about this one, we're in some deep trouble, I think.
Yeah. No, let's get it done. Hey, you guys enjoy the game tonight. Should be an awesome atmosphere. We'll talk all about it on Monday. Anybody going to the game, watching at home, enjoy tonight. Enjoy the weekend. We're out. Talk to you on Monday. It is The Drive.
You're listening to WSJK ESPN 93.5 Tuscola, Champaign-Urbana, your home for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Visit ExploreSt.Louis.com. By Central Bank, the hometown bank of the St. Louis Cardinals. And by the Painting and Decorating Foundation. Now, St. Louis Cardinals baseball.
From Roger Dean Chevrolet Stadium in Jupiter, Florida, the spring training home of the St. Louis Cardinals, along with our engineer-producer Ryan Schulte, Ricky Horton is here. I'm Mike Claiborne, filling in for John Rooney, who will be back with us next week. And we all welcome you to Cardinal baseball. It's only the 36th game since 2006, the fewest of any team in Major League Baseball, where you find the Cardinals playing a night game. It's only the 10th game the Redbirds have played at Roger Dean Stadium in that time. There's some positive news on the front of Jordan Walker. He was in uniform today, back on the field in light-duty mode. Oliver Marmol was quoted saying he looks at Jordan Walker now as a day-to-day situation. So we may see him sooner than later. Speaking of later, we're going to tell you about the lineups. They come your way in just a bit on the Cardinals Radio Network, powered by Gray Bar.
At Ameren, we believe that tomorrow isn't built by dreamers. It's built by doers. Because progress doesn't work unless we do. So we've been hard at work putting energy to work for you. Adding underground cables, installing advanced switches and sensors, storm hardening poles and power lines, making the energy grid stronger today so it can meet your needs tomorrow. Learn more about projects near you at Ameren.com/reliability.
Hi, this is Jalen for Dobbs, where tire buying is easy. At GoToDobbs.com, shop brands, sizes, pricing, and our amazing deals. With 40-plus locations, get same-day install. For tires, it's Dobbs.
For deals you can use, click on GoToDobbs.com now.
March tire and service deals you won't be able to resist. Now at Dobbs. Save on new sets of 4 Selects, General, Pirelli, and Michelin tires. Expert auto service too. Get ready for warm weather driving now and save. Click on GoToDobbs.com today.
Looking for an event space that will leave your guests talking? Cardinals Special Events offers all sorts of unique venue options in the St. Louis Cardinals' iconic Busch Stadium, as well as in Cardinals Nation inside Ballpark Village. From corporate celebrations to personal milestones and everything in between, Cardinals Special Events can help your group make memories that will